Okay. So I guess we could start off by, do you mind just talking about your experience in Pakistan? What's your relation to Pakistan? Anything you'd like to share based on.
Absolutely. So I was born in Pakistan. I was born in Islamabad, and then I spent most of my time in Pakistan in Karachi. My grandparents were both educators, so they were both associated with the University of Karachi. My grandfather had moved up all the way to the vice chancellor well before I was born. I come from an upbringing where education has very high importance in our life. So from there, my grandparents started the whole trend about making sure that education played the vital role. And my father built onto it. My father spent his career, majority of his career in the oil and gas industry. And he was also someone who constantly strived for personal and professional development. So he's a civil engineer by discipline. So he got his bachelor's of civil engineering, then a master's, then he got his law degree, his LLB, then he got an MBA. And even right now, he's still taking every opportunity to learn that he can. As my dad was in the oil and gas industry majority of his career, before that he was with ICI and he was posted in Kyoto. And that's where I was born in Islamabad. And then after Kyoto, I moved to Karachi. My grandparents were still there. We were living at the Karachi University campus. So I have very fond memories of that campus, the housing on campus. My grandparents, myself, my parents, of course, and my middle brother was born around the time we were sitting at the campus. And after my grandparents retired, we moved to the Defense Phase 2 area. And I went to Karachi Grammar School. That's where I started my education. I went to grammar all the way till the end of O levels. But when we moved to defense, it was a very different world. Me having spent time at Karachi University was very different than living in defense. So but it was definitely a great experience. I did do most of my growing, for lack of better words, in defense and at grammar school. So it was a great experience. Even till today, I still have some very strong bonds with friends over there. A handful of friends who still are in Karachi, and then I have some friends in other parts of the world. But back right after my O levels, I want to say around 2002, this is while I was still in school, my father got a posting to go to Nigeria for a few years on a cross contract. And my father, my mother, and my younger brother, they went to Nigeria. And because they didn't have schools for children my age, I stayed in Karachi for 2 years with my grandparents. So that's when I was doing my O levels in 2003 to 2005. And around in 2005, early 2005, my grandmother unfortunately passed away. And at that time, around the same time, my dad got an opportunity to continue his work in Oman, which is about a 40-minute flight from Karachi. So at that time, we all made the transition, went to Oman, and I did my A levels from the British School of Muscat over there. And while all this is going on, we had been sponsored for our US immigration back in the early 90s. Now, just to put that in perspective, we were sponsored in the early 90s and it was our turn somewhere around mid 2004. So in 2004, we started the process, and in 2005, we completed the whole immigration process and we had to make our entry into the US. And I still remember we got on a flight to come to the US and we flew into Cincinnati, Ohio. And we had all our immigration done in Cincinnati. And my parents both have siblings in the United States. So our second stop was Chicago. We did all our social security documents and everything related to immigration in Chicago. And then we went back to Oman. We got a travel waiver, went back to Oman, but we made the trip every year to the US, green card requirements and all that. And eventually it came down to that point where we had a discussion that, all right, we need to move to the US. How do we decide where we want to go? And my father comes up to me and says, look, you apply to colleges wherever you get into college and wherever you have the best opportunity. I think as long as we have family nearby, we can just move there. And I got into George Mason University up in Northern Virginia, and my dad's sister was living there, and I had cousins over there. So that was an ideal place for us to move to. But this time, my youngest brother was also born. So there were us three brothers and mom. We moved to Herndon and Fairfax. And around the same time, my dad got another opportunity to do a contract in Nigeria. So he was 4 weeks in Nigeria, 2 weeks in DC, 4 weeks Nigeria, 2 weeks DC. He did a lot of that. And being a father myself now, I truly understand, well, why a father does that. But he definitely made sure that everything was taken care of and no issues whatsoever. And then I want to say late 2010, my father got an opportunity to move to Houston. for work within the same company. He took the opportunity just so he could be in the US, be close to family. And at that point, it just seemed like the right move for all of us to just move to Houston. And we did. And as much as I miss the Northern Virginia area, I'll tell you, Houston is a different world. And
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
it's pretty hot, absolutely. But
Yeah.
it's a lot more like Karachi, where you can get all the food,
Yeah.
the weather. So my first thing I tell anyone, if you're going to move to the US, especially from Pakistan, the place you want to move to is Houston. That'll be your easiest transition into the world of the United States. We were in Houston. We were there for about 10 years. And I recently just moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area after spending about 6 months in Arkansas. But again, at this point now, my moves are more career-driven and focused on the kids,
Yeah.
right?
Makes sense.
That's what my story looks like from
Yeah.
Pakistan to the US.